You don't want love. You want to be picked so you feel worthy. Why you don't actually want love? Before we dive into the depths of this exploration, consider these questions. What if the love you're chasing is just a mask for the validation you crave? How often do we mistake approval for connection? And at what cost? And what happens when we stop seeking to be chosen and start choosing ourselves? Here's the key insight we will explore. What most people call looking for love is actually a carefully prepared effort to gain approval designed to win validation. This difference changes everything about how we approach relationships, self-worth, and emotional healing. The path to genuine connection requires leaving behind the quest to be chosen and embracing the courage to be truly seen, flaws, fears, and all. What follows is an examination of how we've confused external validation for love, why this hurts us, and how to break free from this cycle. Think about your most intense romantic experiences. Were they characterized by peace and security, or by anxiety, uncertainty, and the thrill of finally being chosen? Have you ever noticed how the people you pursue most desperately are often those who make you feel least secure? This isn't coincidence. It's evidence of a profound misunderstanding about what we're truly seeking. Let's tell the truth. You don't actually want love, not yet. What you want, what you've been chasing, is to be picked, chosen, validated. You want someone to point at you and say you're it. You're finally enough. Because somewhere deep in your system, you've internalized a dangerous equation. To be chosen is to be safe, to be desired is to be valuable, to be wanted is to be worthy. And anything that threatens this equation, anything that reminds you that real love is quiet and steady, you reject automatically. Being picked by someone you had to earn, especially someone emotionally unavailable, chaotic, hard to impress, that feels like redemption. That feels like healing. But it's not. It's just another performance in a lifelong series of auditions. The rush you feel isn't love, it's validation. The obsession isn't connection, it's the temporary relief of self-doubt. And mistaking one for the other keeps you trapped in a cycle that can never satisfy the deeper hunger for authentic love. This didn't start with romantic relationships. This pattern was established long before you ever swiped right or felt your heart race at a text message. Perhaps it began with a parent whose love you had to earn, a caregiver who praised you only when you were useful but never when you were hurting, or a family system that rewarded performance and punished emotional needs. These early experiences taught you that love is conditional, that it must be earned through achievement, compliance, or emotional suppression. What's remarkable about this pattern is how early it begins and how deeply it becomes encoded in our nervous system. Have you ever wondered why certain relationship dynamics feel so familiar even when they are painful? Why do some of us consistently choose partners who are emotionally distant, critical, or inconsistent? The answer lies in what psychologists call attachment patterns, the blueprints for relationships that form in early childhood. When a child learns that love is conditional on performance, they develop an inner working model that equates worth with achievement. The child adapts, becoming whoever they need to be to avoid abandonment. They become the version of themselves most likely to be chosen, while burying the parts deemed unacceptable or too much. This adaptation isn't a conscious choice, it's a survival strategy. In an environment where emotional safety depends on pleasing others, performance becomes a shield against rejection. The child learns to monitor others' reactions, to anticipate needs, to shapeshift into the most appealing version of themselves. These behaviors become so automatic that by adulthood, many people can no longer distinguish between their authentic selves and the personas they've created to earn approval. Historical examples abound. Consider Marilyn Monroe, who constructed an entire persona that pleased others while struggling to connect with her authentic self. Or examine the lives of many high achievers who appear successful but describe feeling like imposters, always performing, never truly present. This pattern transcends cultures and eras because it stems from a universal human need, the yearning to be valued and accepted. But here's where it gets even more insidious. Your brain has been hijacked to mistake anxiety for chemistry, distance for mystery, and someone's unpredictability for a challenge you need to win. Have you ever wondered why the uncertain relationships, The ones where you're never quite sure where you stand feel so much more intense than the stable ones. The neurochemistry explains everything. When you're in pursuit mode, analyzing texts, wondering if they'll call, riding the highs when they show interest and the lows when they pull away, your brain releases a cocktail of chemicals including dopamine, the same neurotransmitter activated by gambling and certain drugs. The unpredictability creates a variable reward schedule, the most addictive pattern possible. It's why you check your phone obsessively, why you analyze every interaction, why you remember every detail about someone who treats you as an option. Deep down, your nervous system has become wired for this chaos. The validation-seeking parts of your brain light up when you finally get attention from someone who withholds it, creating a false sense of achievement and worth. It's not love you're experiencing, it's the temporary high of winning approval. And like any addiction, it requires increasingly intense experiences to achieve the same effect, leading you to chase even more challenging, more withholding partners. Modern dating apps have weaponized this vulnerability, turning romantic pursuit into a validation slot machine. Each match, each message, each sign of interest triggers the same dopamine response, keeping users hooked on the possibility of being chosen rather than fostering genuine connection. What we've created is not a pathway to love but an elaborate system of mutual validation seeking, where authentic connection becomes increasingly rare. You say you want partnership, but what you really mean is, I want a witness who will finally say I'm good enough. You say you're looking for love, but your actions reveal a search for evidence of your worthiness. If we're truly honest, most of what passes for romantic pursuit today is actually an elaborate form of self-medication, temporary relief from the chronic pain of self-doubt. Let's examine the beliefs that maintain this pattern. First, you believe the harder someone is to earn, the more valuable you must be if they choose you. This explains the magnetic pull toward those who are ambivalent about you. Their reluctance becomes the perfect stage for your performance, the perfect opportunity to finally prove your worth. When they eventually show interest, it feels like confirmation of your value in a way that freely given love never could. Second, you believe intensity equals depth. You've been conditioned to associate emotional volatility with passion, to mistake drama for connection. The relationships that set your nervous system on fire, the arguments followed by reconciliations, the uncertainty followed by reassurance, feel more real than consistent, stable love. This belief keeps you addicted to chaos while dismissing healthy connections as boring or lacking in chemistry. Third, you believe being chosen is the same as being loved. But these are fundamentally different experiences. Being chosen is external validation. Being loved is about being seen in your totality and accepted anyway. One feeds the ego, the other nourishes the soul. One is about winning, the other is about belonging. Here's the central paradox that keeps you trapped. The more desperately you seek to be chosen, the less likely you are to experience genuine love. Why? Because real connection requires authenticity, and performance eliminates the possibility of being truly known. Think about it. If you're constantly monitoring yourself, adjusting your behavior to maximize approval, calculating what to say or do to maintain someone's interest, where is the space for actual intimacy? How can someone love you if what they are seeing is your carefully curated performance, not your authentic self? The very strategies you've developed to earn love are precisely what prevent you from receiving it. This creates a tragic situation. You chase unavailable people and call it fate, pine after the one who won't text back and call it romantic tension, ignore steady love that feels unfamiliar because deep down, your nervous system is wired for chaos. You're not actually afraid of rejection. You've become quite comfortable with that familiar pain. What truly terrifies you is being seen without the sparkle, being held when you're not impressive, being truly known. Because what if, when you finally stop performing, no one stays? What if, when the mask comes off, the love disappears? That's the core wound, the haunting fear that drives the endless performance. So you keep reaching for the fantasy. If I can get that person to choose me, that avoidant one, that emotionally distant one, the one who doesn't choose anyone, then maybe I'm finally good enough. But that's not healing. That's self-abandonment in disguise. That's tying your worth to someone else's inability to love properly. True love begins where the need for validation ends. Let me say this as clearly as possible. You are not addicted to love. You are addicted to performance. You are addicted to pursuit. You are addicted to trying to prove that you're enough. And love, true, grounded, emotionally secure love, will never make you prove anything, which is why it often feels boring, foreign, off to someone raised on the adrenaline of pursuit. Real love doesn't spike your nervous system. It doesn't trigger your fight or flight response. It doesn't make you question your worth every 5 minutes. Real love doesn't feel like conquest. It feels like home. And to someone raised to perform, home feels suspicious because it doesn't ask you to earn it. Have you considered what it would mean to stop performing? To lay down the exhausting work of trying to be exceptional enough to deserve love? What would happen if you allowed yourself to be ordinary, to be seen, to be known in both your brilliance and your brokenness? This is the authentic revolution, the radical act of choosing realness over performance, presence over perfection. It's looking at the parts of yourself you've hidden away, the messy emotions, the inconvenient needs, the awkward truths, and bringing them into the light. Not to prove anything, but because authentic connection can only occur between authentic people. Consider the wisdom traditions that have pointed to this truth for centuries. Zen Buddhism teaches that freedom comes from dropping the false self. Christian theology speaks of being known and loved by God in your unvarnished reality. Ancient Greek philosophy advocated for know thyself as the foundation of wisdom. These diverse traditions converge on a single insight. The performed self is a prison. Authenticity is liberation. If you recognize yourself in this pattern, how do you break free? How do you transition from chasing validation to actually allowing yourself to be loved? The path begins with grief. You must grieve the self who thought she had to be desirable to be kept. You must grieve the little girl who believed she had to be perfect to be loved. You must grieve the teenage version of you who thought being picked was proof of her value. This grief isn't just emotional catharsis. It's the necessary dismantling of a fundamental misunderstanding about your worth. Next comes the unlearning. Stop turning love into a reward system. Stop auditioning. Stop trying to be the most, the smartest, the sexiest, the easiest, the least complicated, the most healed. Stop treating relationships like a test you need to pass. Stop making your personality a resume and start doing the unthinkable. Let yourself be ordinary. Let yourself be seen. This unlearning is not passive. It's a deliberate practice of catching yourself in moments of performance and choosing authenticity instead. It means saying what you actually think instead of what you believe will be well received. It means expressing needs even when they're inconvenient. It means allowing yourself to be disappointed, angry, or afraid without apologizing for having human emotions. And perhaps most importantly, it means learning to sit with the discomfort of not knowing if you're enough, without rushing to find external proof of your worth. As philosopher Alain de Botton notes, the capacity to tolerate missing out on things is one of the most important psychological achievements possible. Can you tolerate the uncertainty of your own value without seeking immediate validation? This is the ultimate test of self-trust. What I'm describing isn't just a different approach to relationships, it's a fundamentally different relationship with yourself. It requires the courage to meet the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding, the wounded places that drive the performance, the tender vulnerabilities that feel too dangerous to reveal. You must feel the heartbreak of how much energy you've spent contorting, performing, earning, chasing. You must let yourself be angry. You must let yourself be messy. You must let yourself mourn all the versions of you that were lovable but were never loved. And you must begin to ask the question, what does love look like when it's not rooted in pain? This is where the real transformation begins, when you stop needing to be impressive and start being real. And yes, it will hurt because your nervous system doesn't know what to do with peace. You'll ache for the highs and lows of the chase. But you must keep choosing the quiet, because now you're no longer asking for love to rescue you from yourself. And when someone walks away, you don't chase. You let them. Because their leaving doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means you're not their person, and that doesn't have to destroy you. It doesn't have to destroy you because your worth is no longer determined by who stays and who goes. The contrarian thinker understands this paradox. The moment you stop trying to be picked is the moment you become truly choosable. Not because you've become more impressive, but because you've become more real. And real connection can only happen between real people. The path forward. Here's what healing looks like. It looks like being okay when no one texts back. It looks like not attaching your worth to how wanted you feel. It looks like letting someone love you on your average days, not just your best ones. It looks like falling apart and not apologizing for it. It looks like no longer chasing people who make you feel small just so you can prove that you're worthy of being seen. Because here's the truth that changes everything. You were never meant to be picked. You were supposed to be seen. You were supposed to be known. You were supposed to be loved in your being, not in your performance. And the second you accept this, you become powerful, because now you're not just waiting to be chosen, you are choosing. You are choosing who gets your energy, who gets your softness, who gets to stay. This journey from performance to authenticity isn't just about improving your relationships, it's about reclaiming your life. It's about redirecting all the energy that goes into managing others' perceptions back into authentic self-expression and connection. Imagine what becomes possible when you're no longer auditioning for worthiness but actually living from your center. So I invite you to consider, what would change if you stopped trying to be chosen and started choosing instead? How would your relationships transform if you approached them not as proving grounds for your worth but as opportunities for genuine connection? What parts of yourself might you reclaim if you were no longer performing? The path isn't easy. It requires confronting the deep fear that your unperformed self is fundamentally unlovable. It means challenging the equation between being chosen and being worthy. But on the other side of this work is the freedom you've been seeking all along, not in another person's approval, but in the radical acceptance of your whole, imperfect, beautifully human self. Comment below, what aspect of yourself have you been hiding in relationships? What would it feel like to let that part be seen? Subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology of authentic connection and the courage to be known.